Morning, A peeps. Welcome to the Unit 1, Lesson 4 on inflation. Let's go ahead and get started. We will define inflation. All right, so the first step to understanding inflation is to understand the term price level. A price level is the average price of what we call basket of goods that contains what the government fondly believes are the most common monthly purchases of goods and services by a typical American family of four in a typical urban environment. Some things included in the basket are the cost of housing, like monthly rent or monthly mortgage payments, grocery costs, including basics like milk, eggs, bread, beverages, garbage bags, light bulbs, toothpastes, etc. Transportation costs, which can be your car payments, gallons of gas purchased, bus fare, airline fare, stuff like that. Medical costs, like insurance payments, doctor's visits, prescription costs. Apparel, like clothes, shoes, socks, hats, coats, etc. Education costs, tuition, student loan payments. Entertainment, like streaming services, cable, movie tickets, going bowling, playing mini golf, taking vacations. And then communication costs, like monthly cell phone carrier fees, the cost of paying your cell phone off, landlines, internet connections, stuff like that. So there are so many things included in the market basket that it's really impossible for me to give you a comprehensive list here. In fact, there are more than 80,000 items that the government includes in that market basket, and that's what it uses to calculate what we call the average national price level. Let's make a simple example of an average price level by giving a dollar value to the items in our market basket. I'm going to base the dollar values here on my own family spending. So we're a family of three, and we live in a city. Our car payment is about $300 a month. Our mortgage, which includes our home insurance, is about $1,000 a month. My student loans are about $700 a month. We spend about $200 a month on groceries and about $200 on entertainment, about $100 on clothes as my 5-year-old outgrows his pants at the speed of light, and about $400 on medical care, mostly insurance and prescription costs, and then about $100 on cell phone costs, which is probably less than some households spend, but my husband works for a telecom company, so we get discounts. This gives us a market basket value of about $3,000 a month for my household. Let's say that mine and my husband's combined monthly income is also $3,000. This means that the value of our market basket is equal to our income, or that $1 buys 1% of our market basket. So our wages are equal to the price level at this point. But what would happen if the prices of many of the goods in our basket increased? You can see here that each price in the basket has increased by about 50%, and the total value is now $4,500 a month. If our income also increased by 50%, a total of $4,500 a month, then our dollar can still buy 1% of our basket. This means that the price level remained the same, because each dollar buys the same amount of goods that it did before. Price level is difficult to understand at first because it isn't about the number after the dollar sign. It's about the number of goods and services that each dollar can buy. As long as your income increases at the same rate as the price of goods in your basket, then the price level is unchanged, no matter what happens to the prices of goods. The problem occurs when the prices of goods rises faster than the incomes of consumers. If our income remained the same at $3,000, each dollar we have would only buy half of or 0.5% of our basket. We would have to buy fewer goods than we did the previous month. That's what we call inflation, when the price level rises faster than income, or you could say when your dollar loses buying power. The relative price level is not important, as long as income increases at the same rate. The rate of change in prices is what matters when we talk about inflation. If prices rise faster than income, inflation has damaging effects on the economy. The inflation rate, the economic measure we're learning about in this section, is the percentage change in prices from one year to the next. We calculate that using this equation. The inflation rate equals the price level of year 2 minus the price level of year 1, divided by the price level of year 1, and then multiply 100 to get a percentage. Now, inflation is not necessarily a bad thing, as long as it changes slowly. It's a naturally occurring thing in an economy that's growing and hiring more workers and paying more wages. We want inflation to be about 1 to 2% per year, which is about the same rate as regular wage increases. Inflation can be damaging to the economy if it increases faster than the nominal wage, or if prices rise while output remains the same. Look at this McDonald's menu from 1970. The prices are so low compared to today. You can get a Big Mac for 65 cents back then, a hot coffee for 15 cents. I don't know what a triple ripple ice cream cone is, but it sounds good, and it's only 20 cents. That seems so cheap to us. But guess how much people earned on average in a year in 1970? Less than $10,000. The average wage today is about $75,000 per year. So the prices of these goods aren't as low as they seem when you compare it to the average income at that time. So in today's terms, in our wage terms today, those are ridiculously low prices. But the prices that we have today are much higher than that because our incomes are also higher. Now, I mentioned earlier that rapid inflation can damage the economy. Let's look at some of those negative effects of rapid inflation. The first type of economic cost from inflation is called shoe leather costs. Shoe leather cost describes the economic loss that occurs when consumers spend their time trying to spend their currency or their money on useful goods and services during high inflation instead of being productive with their time. Usually, people are not worried that their currency will lose value in the time between earning it and spending it, so they're content to leave that money in their wallets, their bank accounts, and in their investments. But when inflation is rising rapidly, currency loses value very quickly, and the dollar you have today might only have the buying power of 50 cents by tomorrow. So consumers will instead spend their time trying to spend their money immediately instead of saving it or engaging in more productive economic activities. People will take their money out of their investments like stocks and they'll buy something they consider to be more stable like gold and silver, which takes money away from businesses that are attempting to be more productive. So shoe leather costs are economic costs caused by people trying to spend their money quickly instead of holding it or investing it. Menu costs are the cost associated with having to change the signage and the price tags for goods whose prices are changing quickly when inflation is rising rapidly. Many producers in the US have tried to get around this cost by installing electronic signage, which can easily be changed at a computer. But if you go to your normal Walmart, they're still going to have paper stickers on the shelf showing you how much prices, what the price of something is, and they'll have to go through there and reprint and change all those stickers anytime the price rises. It's called menu cost because of the cost of reprinting menus at restaurants. If you've ever worked at a restaurant or if you work at one now, ask how much it costs to print a menu if you get a chance to, and if your boss is nice. They're expensive, and having to reprint them constantly is going to cost you a lot of money. So the final economic cost of rapid inflation is called the unit of account costs. In normal economic times, the dollar is used as a basis for contracts and the calculation of value. That's called the unit account roll of money. Take this house, for example. It's been given a value of $100,000. The government assesses the value of the house as $100,000 in order to determine the amount of property taxes that the owner must pay. Let's say the tax is 10% of the value of the house, so $10,000 per year in property tax. Now, let's say that inflation rises rapidly over the next few years, and the house now has a value of $200,000, even though it's the same house. The house has increased in price because everything in the economy is now more expensive, but the value of the owner's income has actually decreased due to inflation. His real wage has decreased. But because the house is now valued at $200,000, the property tax has also increased to $20,000 per year because the government is not accounting for the inflation when calculating the tax. This is a unit of account cost. When the price of things goes up due to inflation and any contracts written before the inflation increases do not adjust for the inflation that's happened. So we just learned that high inflation rates impose overall cost of the economy. But you should also know that inflation can produce both winners and losers. The main reason inflation can help some and hurt others is that economic transactions, such as loans, often involve contracts that extend over a period of time, and these contracts are normally specified in nominal or current dollar terms. In the case of a loan, the borrower receives a certain amount of funds at the beginning, and the loan contract specifies how much the borrower must repay at some future date. But what the dollar repayment is worth in real terms, meaning purchasing power, depends on the changes in the rate of inflation over the lifetime of the contract or loan. The interest rate on a loan is the percentage of the loan amount that the borrower must pay to the lender in addition to the amount of the loan itself. Think of interest rates as the cost of borrowing money, or the reward for saving it. When economists look at the effects of inflation on interest rates, they distinguish between nominal and real interest rates. A nominal interest rate is the interest rate that one actually pays for the loan, the number written in the contract. Every interest rate that you see advertised is a nominal interest rate. The real interest rate, on the other hand, is the nominal interest rate adjusted for inflation, found by subtracting the inflation rate from the nominal interest rate. For example, if your loan has a nominal interest rate of 10%, but the inflation rate is 4%, the real interest rate is 6%. When a borrower and lender enter into a loan contract, the lender will include in the nominal interest rate what they expect inflation to be during the time the loan is being repaid. However, if inflation increases by more than what the lender expected, the borrower will win by paying back the lender money that is worth less than when they borrowed it. The lender in this situation is the loser because the money they earned from the loan has less value than what they were expecting to earn. The opposite situation, where there is less inflation than expected, hurts the borrower and helps the lender because they're getting paid money with more value than what they expected. There are other winners and losers in a high inflation situation as well. Suppose your grandfather doesn't trust banks and keeps his life savings hidden under the mattress instead. If rapid inflation occurs, his money will lose value much faster than someone who had invested their money into a financial asset with an interest rate attached to it, like a savings account or a bond. During rapid inflation, banks are much less likely to make loans to individuals and firms as well because they are not sure what nominal interest rate to charge when rapid inflation is happening. Not being able to get a loan means that individuals will not be able to purchase houses, cars, or higher education, and firms won't be able to expand and grow their business, which can lead to economic decline. We call that situation a liquidity trap because banks are sitting on liquid assets, which is cash, but are refusing to loan it out. That was a big problem in 2008 after the market crash. Deflation is an interesting concept. It is a surprise fall in the price level, which increases the buying power of money. That may sound good as a consumer, but there are two consequences of deflation to keep in mind. Those with debts will find that the real value of those debts increases, and they now have to pay back their lenders with money that is worth more than when they made the initial borrow. And firms will react to a drop in prices by producing fewer goods, which could create shortages. Disinflation is the term that describes the government's attempts to decrease high inflation, and it usually involves a painful trade-off with high unemployment. We'll learn more about that in a later section or later unit. All right, that's all for section 1. I'll see you in a bit.